Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I am the host of this podcast, and we are your number one podcast for bringing you conversations around death, and grief, trauma, mental health, all the good things that come in between. And we share amazing stories, normalizing the conversations to make it a lot more comfortable to talk about. And today, as always, I have an amazing guest for you guys. And guess what? She started off kung fu fighting with me. I don't even know how to feel about this right now. She did the whole flying dragon, crouching tiger thing on me, and so now y'all already know how this goes, right? And but no, thank you guys for tuning in. And if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. Now, people, help me welcome my next guest, Miss D. D, how you doing?
Everybody is kung fu fighting. No,
She already started all this way. And y'all should have seen before we got on live. She was already like, "Oh, take your lips off, Tony." I was like, "Oh, she's a sharpshooter. I ain't got big lips. I got small lips." She was like, "I'm gonna take them off." I was like, "All right, that's what we're doing there. That's what we're doing, right?" But no, man, it is so nice to have you on the show. Thank you and welcome.
yay! Thank you, Tony. I'm so excited. Thanks for having
I'm
me.
so excited as well. We had an amazing talk when we first met, and I can't wait to dive deeper into your story. Now, before we get started, tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm Denicia Hilton Harper, and I'm the co-creator of the Perfect Playground. And I say co-creator because it's me, and then I'm guided by divine spirit as to what's needed there for people out there. And those people are those that are, struggling with relationships, whether that's relationships with themselves, relationships with others. And what I do is I bring in my background as a practicing doctor of Oriental medicine and holistic well-being consultant to get them to see how there's these signals coming from their whole body and what is that telling them about the dynamics of their relationships. How are they expressing themselves authentically? What is happening with boundaries? How are you dealing with loss and grief? What's your way of being able to navigate life, but to do so as authentically to you as possible? Because we need your unique, perfect magic glitter to shine in the collective. So I'm there on your side of pulling those pieces out, seeing what that is and how can we use that in your everyday so it's sustainable, right? But yeah, so that's a little bit about me and then what goes down at the Perfect Playground. What?
Oh,
I
I
just
like
came up with
that.
that. Like,
Yeah, I like that. I definitely like that. So now, let's tell the audience how you got into this work.
okay, so I got into it. Actually, I have always been interested in like medicine and health stuff, right? Like ever since I was younger. And so I only knew though Western medicine side, and that was pretty much it. Well, what happened was one day I was in conversation with one of my sorority sisters, and I was telling her, you know what, I'm actually thinking to go back to school to finish up my prereqs so I can go and apply for med school and stuff. And she said, well, if there's another way that you could treat patients, would you be interested? And I'm like, there's another way. And so, so it was actually from speaking with her that is when I learned, oh, there is another way. Cool. And then that became acupuncture, Oriental medicine, Eastern medicine, Chinese medicine, like all that stuff. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have to say though, because it was a choice. So I chose that route because inherent and built into the medicine and very specifically to the program that I in the school that I learned that lineage is where it is that you get to see people as a whole person. And what happens is they're what's calling their attention when it's like these physical symptoms and whatnot. It's like our job is, how does that play into the role of that whole person? And how is it, like, what tools can we use to get them to be able to have this energy flow. Like most of the time people only think of like it's the chi, it's the life force, but it's also an embodiment. So it's like, how is it that it's in their life, which is what Dr. Shin would say is like the medicine in the life. What is going on in their life that's playing a role into what we're seeing? And then how is it that we can transmute that so that it's in a way that it allows this chi flow into what they're actually desiring. And so the founder of our school was a classically trained psychiatrist. And so even in his journey, he felt like something was missing on that side. And then he stumbled into acupuncture and learned from Dr. Shin. So it's Dr. John F. Shin's lineage. And so he put it together. So there's a very strong like mental, emotional, and spiritual aspect to the way that I practice and the way that I do things.
Mhm.
But yeah, like that's how I actually came into it. And then so it's kind of like somebody mentioning it, I'm feeling like, ooh, maybe I ought to go into this and do that route. And then that's what I did. But I wanted to give context as to why I chose that route as well, is because I just see people as whole people. And I really believe that if you're given the tools to allow the flow of you to happen, it can happen. And I just want to have that space for them to do that and for us to play around and see what that is.
No, I love that. I love that because as you were talking, I started thinking about energy, frequency, vibration, all the things that make us who we are, right?
Yeah.
Because, we often hear the term, you have to vibrate on a higher frequency in order to attract the things that you want to get past, X, Y, and Z. I see the look on your face. I see the. Don't be giving me that look.
But you see, I'm like this because I'm just like, I'm waiting, I'm listening. Wait till my turn. Like
Oh no,
it's
no, look, I'm opening up the doors. I'm opening up the doors, right? Because I I look at all of these different things, and being a grief coach myself, um, always trying to find different ways of helping people heal
yeah.
without the medicine, because I don't think it's necessary in some cases. Now there are some cases where medicine is necessary, you
Hmm.
know. But a lot of times, I think that's a lot of people's go-to. I like the more natural approach,
Yeah.
regulating your body, regulating your nervous system, eating healthy, working out, meditating, yoga,
Yeah.
um, all of those different things that help you align the energy flow in your body,
Yeah.
right? That help you be out into the world and
Yeah.
everything. Like, so say for instance, and this is what I mean for the audience who is tuning in right now. Like, we step out into the world and you have a totally different vibration than what I do. And so you will attract certain people as well as I, right? And I like to call it our gifts.
Hmm.
Our gifts are so prominent that it attracts people that we need to be of service to.
Hmm.
And and again, when you think about it, people think about the vibration, frequency, how we operate, how the world operates, and things like that. And now there is scientific, evidence that we do operate on those different frequencies. Just like
Yeah.
waves, we step into a radio wave, we're going to get jacked up. We
Yep. Yeah.
got to go away and do that, right? But share your thoughts on that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Okay. So that face before, I'm not exactly sure what that face was like. Was probably like something like that. But anyways, that was
Well, you had the face like you was about to karate chop me in my lips or something. I told you this. We will have to talk about that because I was like, I don't even know what I did, but whatever I
I
did,
know.
Miss D, I'm gonna apologize already because ain't nobody got time for all of that. I'm too old
No.
to be running, okay? I'm too old to be running. I'm too slow to be fighting. So therefore, we got to talk about this.
No, we're just gonna hold hands and just speak heart to heart. That's what it is. It's just
See, now
speaking.
when you talk like that, I'm like, you're gonna put me in a submission hold. I ain't got time for all of that. How about we just stand and look at one another and maybe we can keep it verbal and not physical.
Oh
Because
my
every
gosh.
time every time you say something, I'm thinking to myself like, yeah, that's a hip toss.
No.
No, that's a kick in the shin. I don't need
I
that
don't even know how
problem.
to do that stuff. So like,
That's
no,
what you say, but the look says something different. I was like, well, she
no.
know a thing or two about a thing or two, and I'm not even trying to find out because she started off with the kung fu fight. She did Tiger Hidden Miss style and all kinds of stuff. She was like the next,
It's all of like the qigong coming from Shang-Chi
that's
and
there
like
you go doing Tai
Tai
Chi.
Chi
So now
moves.
you can't convince me. You can't convince me that you don't know anything. You
I'm
never
gonna put it like this.
did.
I don't know how to use it intentionally to cause harm. Let me put it like that. How's that? I don't.
I've heard that before.
Oh no. Oh my gosh, Tony. Okay, so I'll tell you. Here's context. So, and it's something that I learned myself, like along the way in my own personal journey. Because yeah, like there is that narrative, there is that phrasing of like higher self, keep yourself high vibe, positive vibes only, all of that. Then what happened though, and I was what I started seeing is that when there is that type of conversations happening and people saying that all the time, it actually gets people to positions them to deny the whole human experience of the other emotions. And so it's like, as soon as and that's where all of a sudden you started hearing about spiritual bypassing, or now that people are like, well, that's gaslighting, and it's like, because really what it was is that people were denying these aspects of the human experience. So if someone is coming and they're like upset about something, they're mad, they could be angry, they could be worrying about whatever it is, to go and tell someone, hey, think positively, right? Like,
Mhm.
and it's like, now all of a sudden we're encouraging them to repress that part of themselves. And then I can tell you, as a practitioner, I see that start to manifest in the physical form, because that worry is going to express itself.
Right.
It's just how it's going to express itself. So when we're going and we're telling people this, like, oh, be high vibe and positive and blah, 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 it's like, or we actually need to listen to the worry. What aspects of the worry are playing out right now? Address that. And then, because it's going to show up, right? Like in their behavior. And then when they talk about like frequencies and stuff, it's like I start thinking in sound waves. And so because
Okay.
that's where it is. It's frequencies and amplitudes. And even then, when you look at it, it goes like this. Guess what that also means? It went up, it went down. It went up, it went down. It went up, it went down. Are you trying to tell me that you're only going to accept the parts that's above the horizontal line? No, because that would have cut off the whole waveform. And we are electromagnetic beings. That's what you're talking about. And especially like with the and that's what they were picking up on in like the experiments that they would choose, right? Or that they were doing, is that electromagnetic field. How are we playing out with that? We're ionic beings. And so it is once again the totality, right? Like that, it's the wholeness of people and it's the wholeness of the experience. What I feel like what it is strongly, these are very strong feelings, by the way, is that it's more about people learning how to navigate through the myriad of the emotional experience. It's
Okay.
not necessarily getting overcoming all of the doubt or the worry or the anger or the sadness. It's actually more about how do you navigate that when it presents itself? How do we get to glean what is the wisdom coming from that? And then when we become aware in that state, we can choose what we want to do with it, with that information next. And then like the other thing is, some people don't know this, but like in Eastern medicine, there is a such thing as pathogenic joy.
Mm, okay. Break it down
So,
for me. Break it down for me.
yeah. So, like, when we go around and we're telling people, like, be happy all the time, right?
Mhm.
People start seeking that. It's almost like your dopamine hits. It's like it can become addictive because you got to that point and then all of a sudden you're like, I really want to feel it again. So they start doing all of these behaviors, start seeking it
Mm, okay.
more
Okay.
and more and more. But that threshold of what you would have considered happiness or joy keeps getting higher and higher. So then your behaviors is you're going to keep doing more and more and more and more and more to just try to get there. Right. And the thing is that you may not. That's
Mm,
the premise behind addictions in different forms. It's exactly what happens. That food didn't necessarily meet that threshold. The drug didn't meet that threshold. The
mhm.
whatever alcohol didn't meet that threshold. Like the sex didn't meet that threshold. So you keep doing it more and more and more. People do that even in the sense of joy. People do that even in the sense of like the spiritual aspects. They have something, it's something also that's like, it's, I think they call it monk's disease or something like that. Like there were actually physical symptoms that would pop up even for monks because they would just be sitting there that whole time in meditation. But there were other aspects to their functioning and to the optimal functioning of the whole being that wasn't actually being nourished. And so then there would be some other physical symptoms that would show up, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, so like that's what I was saying. Like it's not it's almost like people have these hierarchies, especially when it comes to emotions. Which
Mm,
ones to which ones are better, which ones are bad, which ones are good, which ones are positive, which ones are negative. And I'm asking you to just say what is, because each one has a role.
right. Right. And as you was talking about that, I'm glad that you brought up the emotional aspect of it because most people do go, I had a negative attitude towards this or this, that, another. And I go, no, take that back. And they go, what do you mean? I go, because you just had an emotional reaction. It's not that it's negative or positive. You had the reaction that you required in that moment from your mindset.
Mhm.
And so, and now, I this is where I kind of revert back in my field because this is where I'm a little bit more comfortable in. I'm a grief coach, right?
Yeah.
And so, when I see men struggling with their emotions, um, and see the misconception of what they're feeling, right?
Mm.
Perception versus reality. If you saw me when I was going through my hardest things, you would probably have thought to yourself like, "This dude is crazy." And the crazy part about it is you're probably right because of emotional aspect that I was feeling. So there's no denying that at all. The problem is that it would have been misunderstood.
Mhm.
It had been truly misunderstood for the simple fact of when it comes down to emotions, emotions are part of a human body. It's your makeup. It's who you are. Is in those moments that arise, whether they be the most exciting thing or the most traumatic thing that you experience. These,
Yeah.
and I agree with what you said. These things serve a purpose.
Mhm.
Should be treated as such. How do we help people understand the human nature of those emotions and better help them regulate and understand it? Because articulation is key to a lot of the things that we do, right?
Yeah.
Having to put words to it, so to
Mm.
speak.
So like there's like a multi-pronged approach to that that's coming to me right now as I'm listening to you is if we look at it and we're saying emotions, within it is motion,
Mm,
right? So
yes.
there that lets you know that it's a shifting thing. It can be temporary if you want it to be,
Mm,
right?
yes.
It can flow. And so then because I do see a difference between emotion and feeling. by the way.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
so it's like if we say it's emotion, and then if you can shift the way that you see it, and you're like, it's actually a messenger, right? So if they have, as part of the studies and research out right now, um, that there are neuropeptides that would start to be created by with certain emotions, then that lets you know that there was even a message. Like there is a message coming from that
Mhm.
emotion, and it's directing your body on what to do.
Right.
Like it's
Yes.
directing those cells on what to do next, right? And so then when you ask that question about like how do we like train ourselves? Like how do we teach others? Like how do we do that? Like I feel like a lot of it is, especially when we're younger, if there's a way that we could neutralize the whole good or bad,
Hmm.
positive or negative, if we can just get them um to just describe what they're feeling. I think too, over time we've moved into very quick, let's say like quick video, you know, make a post, but it needs to be 120 characters or less.
Hmm.
So with that, it's not just on social media. Where is it that you're doing that to other people?
Hmm.
Meaning you're expecting them to be all succinct. So then people now are challenging themselves of, dang, I got to answer this quickly. And I got to, because they're not going to listen to me if it's elongated.
Right.
Then right. And so then when it comes to these emotions, and it's like, and to be able to identify and process, sometimes they really don't have the words. And so it might come out as a bunch of literally like phrases, and it's like, let it come out that way. That's the way that they're actually processing.
Exactly.
And another thing is, sometimes it's not by words, but it could be by an expression in the body. So like, even if you even ask them, like, are you feeling different sensations in your body somewhere? And what are those sensations? Is there a color to it? Does it feel heavy? Is it light? Is there a texture? And then for some, if you were going to draw it out, what would that look like?
Hmm.
So I think like kind of that whole pigeonholing people to only being able to say it verbally in words that you understand. It's like, or can we just ask them to just do it in the way that they feel it, in the way that they're experiencing it? And we give them the different tools and avenues that they can express it. It's not up to us to necessarily understand it. They just need to express it. And then we guide them in applying the meaning for themselves.
Okay. Okay.
Because if we apply the meaning to it, we took their sovereignty of their own healing from them.
Mm. Yes, we do. And okay, so I'm glad that you brought that up because it helped me pose this question. Because a lot of times what happens is that people will actually making it, turn it around and that pretty much make it about them, right? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And take away from what this person is experiencing.
Yeah.
Woo!
Bless you.
Had a sneeze. I had a sneeze. Um, but a lot of times people will take that and put themselves in these positions to hold that space with these individuals and forget that their experience, their story has no place in this person's space, right? So then, and again, when I say this, I'm speaking from what I've seen with men. But
Hmm.
what I've seen with the women that I've been in contact with or help them create an atmosphere for men to be able to be vulnerable and things like that. And I recognize these simple mistakes, right?
Yeah.
And so when I speak of this, I'm gonna use it in a universal term. More a lot more times having the wrong atmosphere or the wrong environment can create competition. and people will go, "Oh, I see what you're doing, and I heard what you're going through," but they're not really listening. And they go, "And I've been through this," and I go, "As soon as you do that, you disregard the other individuals' story of being heard and seen."
Yeah.
And so I have a term when I see this, I go, "No, what we're going to do is that we're going to be the perfect visitor." And so what
Mm-hmm.
I need you to do is that I need you to just sit here, listen without the intention of responding
Mm-hmm.
or having an emotional reaction, because you may take something that is being said personal.
Yeah.
So how do we as a collective navigate that particular scenario?
This is so synchrodystonic. MG. I feel like you were sitting in class with me this week. I'm like, because
I was there. I was there in spirit. I heard it through the grapevine. I ain't
I
gonna
could
say nothing.
tell. We just jamming today, man. So
We
like,
jamming. Look, it's happening. It's happening, right?
yes,
It's like
because
having chicken fried watermelon and grape Kool Aid.
oh my gosh, really with some shrimp and grits. Like,
I can't
what
do
is,
shrimp, so you know
oh,
what?
you can't. Oh,
No, no. They told me I was allergic, and then they tried to kill me, and I was like, I don't want to do
oh,
this anymore.
oh no.
I
Can you
know.
do fish?
I can do fish. I just can't do shellfish.
Okay, so we can do some fish and grits.
Okay, we can do
We-
that. I got. I'm going to be fishing for some trout and maybe some catfish. We got it. We got
there
this.
we go. There we go. Like,
We'll make it work. I love it. I love it.
yes, but yeah, in class actually this week that came up, and because I teach one of our courses at the college, and that came up as like the practitioner, as a provider, as the person who's there. And I think too, when because even I heard it when you said it, I think sometimes when there are those people who are great intentions, right? When we say hold space, I want you to ask yourself, like, what are you holding? Because
Yeah.
it's almost like you're actually kind of taking ownership. Even then, from that point, you're like taking ownership. And so then it's like asking myself too, because I stopped using that one, and I'm just kind of like, here, I'll create a container that feel free to flow around in it,
No,
however you
understood.
want. And so like, um, that's when one of the students was asking was like, how, like, when do you know to share something that, share your experience and all of that. And I feel like it's very complicated and complex. And at the same time, you can be intuitive in it. Right. And so, but first and foremost, it is to me like seeing that you are a witness. Like I call it a witnessing, in that you're an observer. And so just allowing this person to share what they're sharing from their experience.
Hmm.
And then at the same time, like trying to be as present as possible with that person. And even if it's just literally sitting there and your feet are flat on the ground, just as long as you're aware that your feet are flat on the ground, and you're looking at them, right? It's
Hmm.
even I was even telling them, even paying attention to when you're even doing this, because sometimes that what is taught in a classical training is this is a part of active listening. You doing shaking your head yes or no if somebody's listening only by audio, or they're shaking it yes, right? But sometimes that's misconstrued as in being in agreement.
I can see that. I can
And
definitely see
so when someone's sharing what's going on, sometimes they're actually more trying to just get in agreement with whatever had happened, and then whatever their response was and
that.
whatever their behavior was, so then they could feel like someone's on my side, like I got permission and I got the okay that
Yeah.
what I did was fine, because that person's sitting there like this, just shaking their head yes, yes, And so it's like, how neutral can you be in this engagement, in this witnessing of them sharing, right? And I know you said too that yours being predominantly in the men's spaces, and I'm saying, like, even with women, like, I'm mostly on the women's side. So, like,
Right.
it happens. It become, and the thing is I feel like so many are sharing because they're like, I want you to know that because I'm telling you this, I get what you're saying. But the thing is you don't, because actually what someone's experience is, that was only them that walked that path.
Right.
So you
Right. Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
you don't understand what it is for them. And so that's why I feel like it's vital to try to remain neutral in that sense as much as possible, because
Mhm.
they're going to share it through their lens. When we start to like when we start to try to like apply our own experience, we're doing it through our lens and through our perspective. So that is, yes, how it is that we can misinterpret, right? We can misinterpret what someone's saying because we're going to make a judgment based on our own experience.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
to maintain that neutrality as much as possible, if anything, if you want to engage in the conversation with them, ask them questions that turns it for them to, that for them to answer, where it's like, okay, so I hear that that happened, or this piece was there, and then, like, from that point, how do you think this influenced XYZ?
Yeah.
How did, like, you're putting it back on them, because that's how they can maintain that sovereignty. That's how they can maintain that, like, feeling whole and feeling like, okay, there's some grounding here. There's someone that's talking to me about me, not necessarily about themselves. And then they just kind of, like, navigate on in the conversation, and they keep going. And so um for myself, when I'm doing that, I'm actually also paying attention to patterns and themes that are popping up that are related to these phases in the body. Because for me, then I'm starting to see, okay, so this is also how this that one experience, because it helps to see different how someone, they're responding, right? Like, it can be
Yeah.
very different person to person. But then the body, if there's certain things coming up within their body, then that's how I can start to see the patterns and the themes of the different systems. And
I love
then I
that.
can reflect that back to them. So then it doesn't become, oh, Denise is starting to apply meaning and interpreting it this way. It's like, nope, actually, you're telling me the information, and then I'm synthesizing it
Mhm.
and reflecting it, and just saying, hey, you're talking about the digestive system, like, you felt it in your stomach, you felt it, like, the knots and all of this stuff, and then you're telling me about the heart racing and all of that. So as you're describing this and this is happening, then I can then say, that's what the information you gave me. This then is kind of painting a picture that, like, this sense of self between you and others seems to be muddled right now. Like, or this heart racing part, like, did it feel like you just wanted to run away, but then you felt like you couldn't, like you didn't have enough, you didn't feel like you had enough within you to be able to even do that, so it's like, how can I take the information from them, and then connecting it and synthesizing it, and while still engaging them in that. And it does not mean, like, I feel like, to me, they feel still seen and heard and validated.
Mhm.
And I didn't have to go into any of my own personal, this is what happened when I deal with anxiety, like, I didn't
Right.
have to
Right.
go into that, because the way it shows up for me is going to have a completely different meaning than them. So, like,
This is
you know,
true.
so
This
it's
is
like,
true.
you don't even need that part. Like, why do you can just leave that out? But I feel like that's the thing. And then, oh, I will say too, because this was screaming loud this week for me, was when people have been saying, like, they just want to be seen and heard. Sometimes I'm kind of feeling like when people are saying they want to be seen, I'm like, do they actually really do? Because there's some of us that see these parts of you that you may not actually really see, like they're in a blind spot. So then it's this readiness on your side for someone to be able to witness that. And
Mm,
some may not be
okay.
aware of it. And then when I hear people like saying that they just want to be heard, sometimes I'm like, or they're saying like you're not listening, and this is totally me. Like when I say this, and and then I'll realize I'll catch myself and I'll be like, oh nuts! It's not so much as being listened to or heard. I'm actually wanting them to agree with me,
Yes.
and I'm
Yes.
actually wanting them to do what I want them to do.
Exactly. Yes. So it's a form of manipulation because you want to validate your thoughts, your feelings, right?
Hmm.
And I see that all the time. I do. Trust me, I do. It's such a look. This is why I love grief, right? Because it's such a shared human experience,
Yeah.
and then people want to separate themselves because of the individuality of the experience of the grief. Not understanding that even though it's an individual experience, you're not the only one. There's so
Hmm.
many other people going out there. That's why we have the variety of support groups out there, you know, for individuals navigating this world of grief. Because there's it's you may be going through this, but connecting with other people that have gone through something similar
Yeah.
to learn. But for those who have come a long ways within that journey, they can speak life and love over top of you until you're ready to receive the life and love that's being spoken within you, right? And it changes everything. See, speaking over top of you, I just did a podcast not too long ago, and I was like, there's a difference between when someone speaks life and love over top of you. It's like a shield
Mm.
carries those words within you. You feel it on the outside, and then you begin to relax. And once it's being said again, now you're receiving. Now it's something that you can carry within you. So
Hmm.
it's like a divine shield, so to
Yeah.
speak, right? And most of it is, I know there's multiple ways of doing this, but in my experience, and it's creating the atmosphere for this to take place. Because if the atmosphere is wrong, because then if you're in a tough environment and things like that, it's going to be hard to create an atmosphere. That's why I go, let's separate over here. We can still be in the same environment, but let's create an atmosphere within this. And let's surround ourselves with a mixture of individuals, those men who have been walking the path for quite some time,
Yeah.
those who are just starting, those who are in the middle, those who are struggling with their mental health, those who are struggling with addiction, those who are
Hmm.
struggling with homelessness. Let's mix the environment up that way. What it does, and some people may agree, some people may not agree, but what it does for me, I do what works for the individuals that I'm around, because I do come from a masculine thought pattern,
Hmm.
right? And so you cannot just approach this situation in any old type of way, because you have to think about it. These men are struggling, right?
Yeah.
And they're in survival mode, so you have to approach it in a different way. And so I just found a way of using an universal technique to get in there and go, I see you, right?
Yeah.
I hear you. And they may look and go, what is going on? "Oh, I got you, I got you. Don't even trip." So then when we get to talking, and they get to listening to everyone. So I read, I'm like yourself, I read the room, I read the situation, and I go, oh, this person kind of cringed when I said something about addiction. Let me
Hmm.
let me open up the doors for this talk to happen with this dude over here, because this dude over here I know is struggling with addiction, and he's been what I'm saying, 17 years sober, so he's going to be able to speak life and love over top of this dude and build a
Right.
relationship, right? And
Yeah.
once we begin to do that, now we can begin to pick apart the pieces, right? And begin
Hmm.
to put them out on a platform to where you have to look at it to recognize it.
Yeah.
Because now you get to see what everyone else is seeing.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer in here, it's now in front of you.
In front of you.
But you're surrounded by people that not going to judge you. They're not waiting for the time to jump in to prove that what society has already told you, that no one cares about you. No one
Mm-hmm.
cares about what you're going through or how you feel. But it opens up the doors for individuals to be a part of that vibrational frequency,
Yeah.
right? And to be able to look at things in a different way because now they're guided by the person that's walking the path with them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's a sense of safety
Yeah.
because just as well as I do, as human beings, we find safety nets. We looking for those safety nets. Like if I can do this without coming outside of this realm right here, I'm going to do that, and it becomes the bare minimum, right? Until
Mm-hmm.
you're pushed outside of it, and then you have to look at him and go, well, I wasn't expecting that, right? Why you have to
Right.
push me out like that? So now you're mad, right? Because now the world is like, no, we're going
Mm-hmm.
to address some things, right?
Yeah.
But I think in a lot of ways, this is what like being in your presence and feeling your energy through the screen. I'm just like, how do we associate that with the relationships and things like that? Well, there's a multitude of ways to connect those things to those relationships, right? Because there's nothing more beautiful, at least in my eyes, when you see two people have done the work, starting to heal on their own individual paths, come together and can look at each other and understand what the other person is talking about without actually saying the words out loud. Or even if you stumble across the words, that person understands. Like, I got you. I got you. To me, those are the three most powerful words that you can ever tell someone. I got you. In
Mm-hmm.
this environment that you're feeling right now, in the messiness of your emotion, I got you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they create their own sense of safety within that environment there.
Yeah.
And there's multitude of levels to that.
Right.
Get your thoughts on that.
Definitely. Definitely. And it reminds me of, okay, so when you talk about like environment, I love that you brought that up, and then even the atmosphere and like creating that, because I talk about like, yes, you create the environments. So you have this desire for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, that desire is a seed. And so if I was to think about that being placed in an agar plate that like Dr. Bruce Lipton and them did in the lab,
Mm-hmm.
place a stem cell there. What actually proliferated was based on what was in the medium of that agar plate.
Yes. Yes.
So that's how I see us is, what is it that's in that agar plate on the internal and the external? And because you're responding to those environments and you're responding simultaneously. And so when I think about creating ease, I say go to your environment, because what you're desiring to experience can happen. And I think that that's another thing, is that some people have a fear of expressing that,
Mm-hmm.
of what their desire is. And um it's like, if they're in a place that they could feel like they can share that. This is why people can easily complain.
Mm-hmm.
They can easily complain because people almost will sit there in agreement and validate them on the complaints.
Exactly.
But then what do you hear at the same time? Be careful who you tell people what you wish for yourself. But you don't tell people to be careful about who they complain to.
Right.
So you have this
Yeah. Yeah.
dichotomy.
There you go. Yes, yes.
That is like, be very protective over what you want for yourself and what you know, and all of that. And then it's like, that's quite interesting. But it goes to environment as well. And it sounds like what you're saying is happening in the group that you're witnessing too is, and that's how I see the perfect playground is like, I know you have these desires, and I know that they're not expressing themselves because you're also describing to me physical signals that are coming from the
Mhm.
body. So I know that there is some dissonance that's there. And at you right now, it's funny because they'll say that they don't know. And I am like, okay, you could really not know, or you could actually know, but you don't feel comfortable or safe or feel like you're not going to be
Yes,
judged for that desire.
yeah.
And so, and I mean, this can show up in, so if I was to, kind of go along with grief, and I think about like, it's a loss, you experience the loss, right? So like, for me, if I were to go and say, because one of the things that I um felt a loss about was actually going from engaged to married. And so, depending on my environment, right, I could go
Mhm.
and talk to others, my friends that are married, and describe it to them what I'm feeling, and they would get it. Then I could also go to an environment where it's like they're still my friends, but then they might have that whole, yeah, but at least you married.
Yes,
And so
yes, but
then the difference though between those is like, how free do I feel actually discussing that, and expressing that? I do feel a sense of loss. And so are those people in that environment, would they still be open and receptive to me sharing that? They don't necessarily have to be in agreement with me at all, but it's simply the being in the environment and to express that, and then feeling okay to express that. And even
okay.
if people don't feel like they have that place, they can start to question themselves of, is it a valid loss? you know, because it's not like someone died. So like,
Mhm.
once
Yeah.
again, the hierarchy that people place on things and how we might have internalized that, which then promotes us to deny these aspects of our experience. We even diminish ourselves, will diminish. And that's the thing, is that sometimes it's like, well, just be grateful for what you have. So you're telling me that I cannot actually desire something else? I actually am grateful for what I have, and I still would like XYZ.
I like that. I like that. And I'm not going to take away from, but as you were speaking, I started thinking to myself, like, you know, most of that depends on who you surround yourself with, right?
Which I consider
This,
an environment. Like, it's a
right, it's
type
the
of
environment,
environment.
or the inside that environment is this part of your tribe. So we have a term, what I'm saying, find your tribe. So
Mhm.
as say for instance, when I associate this thing, this is the thing that I love the most about speaking the language of grief, because of the different areas that you can be a part of. Now
Mhm.
I'm a part of multiple tribes when it comes down to grief, from parental loss to sibling loss, friend loss, loss by suicide, loss by addiction, loss by homicide, loss by natural causes, and the list goes on and on. And then the relationships that I've had with them range from friends to, parents to sibling to son, right?
Mhm.
So I belong to these multitude of different environments. Not
Mhm.
every environment is going to be suitable for you.
Right.
You see what I'm
Because each one has actually a culture.
saying? Right, right. There's a
And so
culture, right?
if you're not aware of that culture of
Mhm.
those that are immediately in front of you, then, because with a culture comes a system of beliefs. And in some cases, some of those have been planted from when we were younger. And then it was only through experience that it comes to light what those
Mm.
belief but that belief system is according to a culture. And we're in so many different cultures that I don't think people realize it. Like, so people only think, oh, I'm black, I'm part of the black culture. That's one. But I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you that there is a culture of even your neighborhood. There is
Hmm.
a culture of, okay, you say you're black, but like, are you going to then go ethnicity wise? And then you're going to tell me that there's the Haitian, there's the Jamaican culture, but then
Hmm.
there's those that, oh, are both of your parents like from that one country, or is there
Yes.
several?
Yes.
And then it's like, okay, well then you have the culture of private school, public school informing the way that you might be thinking about yourself. You and so there's, it's even down to why do you think these companies and who their customers are, why do you think they call it their company culture for their customers? Apple people, Android people, Arctic people, Yeti people, Brahmin, Birkin bags, Dooney and Burke bags,
Mm. See,
Rolex
I break it
watch.
down real simple. Yeah, I
But I'm
break it
saying,
down. Yeah,
but
I
do you see
definitely
how
understand. Yeah, most definitely.
it's
It's like
like these?
Sesame Street and Fraggle Rock. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, come on now, like, I mean, because I'm a Toys R Us kid, so you know what I'm saying? Like, so depending on who's listening right now, right? I talk to the audience in a way like, hey, I get where you're coming from. I'm a Toys R Us kid too. I'm a Gen Xer, right? You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So I grew up with Sesame Street and Fraggle Rock and Bob Ross and you know what I'm saying, Transformers and G.I. Joe. You know, I grew up with all of them. Not with,
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with anime. Anime came later on. Dragon Ball Z was the first anime I knew about.
Oh
Then I
yeah,
found
yeah, yeah.
all other ones, and so I was like, oh, they
Yeah.
they did get something different over here, right? You know what I'm saying? Like they
but
did.
even but even then, Tony, witness how you had those ones like the Fraggle Rock, Bob Ross, and all of that, and then here comes Dragon Ball Z. The thing is that it's like, did you bring that? Did you just add that in to a part of your being?
No, no,
And
it's a
then for
separation.
some, yeah, and then
Yeah,
like,
but that's what I was getting at. It's a separation, right? Because for one, you want to surround yourself with people that you can relate to. Now, this is where I say it's important to learn how to navigate the support that you need.
yeah,
Because when we begin to heal and things like that, you're getting what you need from this support over here, this particular group. But as you begin to heal, you may find that there's maybe out of 100, there's one person that you can relate to, and they're
hmm,
feeling the same way that you do. Why is that? Because, okay, you've gotten what you needed from over here. So now we have to go explore this other option,
and
right?
even then though, that can be an experienced
Mhm.
loss for
Right.
people, and they don't see that, right? Like, and so then they might struggle with being okay to change what the form of support looks like for them. And
Or,
that's where they might hang on to something for longer than needed, because it will be it's a loss. And then they'd have to
I agree.
accept that it's a loss. They'd have to grieve, like they can grieve that and letting them know like it's okay, and then they're also, that means too that they're grieving a former version of themselves.
Mhm.
Because then what happens is, as they continue along, not only is it the outside support environment, the inside support environment is also changing.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so if you,
Yes.
so it's like, even then, it's not just the psyche part that changes. I mean, it's just like when the microbes will change just from you exercising for 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes a day for 3 days. They have seen the microbiome change.
Mhm.
And then there's the argument that the microbiome can actually play a role into how you're thinking. So it's playing a role into feelings of anxiety or feelings of sadness and depression. So you literally are changing your internal landscape in your internal environment.
Mhm.
And so then Guess what though? Even with the bacteria, what happened? Some of them even had to die. They had to hold a funeral. Like they
Yes,
so
and I totally agree.
and there
And,
is this birthing. And so it's like we are constantly grieving and we're constantly experiencing loss and we're actually constantly planting seeds and experiencing birth.
mm, I'm glad that you said that because that's a great segue into what I'm about. That what I was going to say, and I'm glad that you led into it. You must have been reading my mind.
I
So
picked
a
it
lot of
up.
people, what they do is that when they begin to navigate this world, look, I'm a firm believer. I'm not taking nothing away. I'm just going to add to what you said because again, when it comes down to grief, I love everything about it. The different dimensions, the different all the multitude of layers
Yeah.
that come along with it, and how they all intertwine with one another. It makes sense to me. So
Mhm.
when I say this, remember, I'm saying this from a place where I'm seeing this and I'm seeing how everything just kind of connects together, right? Like you said, the whole person and not just part of the person, not just environment, but we're talking about the atmosphere. We're talking about, you know what I'm saying, the different people that's going to come along, those that are going to be going, those who's going to stay, right?
Yeah.
All of these different things. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. See, in this world of grief and trauma and understand healing and vibration and frequency, everything is correct.
Mhm.
Everything is correct. The problem is that we get so caught up in what we think is correct that we negate all the other things that could be the possibilities,
Ah,
right? There's no one direction that you can go in. There's a multitude of directions that you go in if you allow yourself to be attracted to the right thing, right?
yeah.
And just because that right thing don't is you're outgrowing that right thing doesn't mean that it's not no longer valuable to you. It just means that now your needs have changed.
Mhm.
That's it. Your needs have changed. It's still valuable to you because you can always go back and go, "Hey, Jimmy, hey man, how you doing, man?" And Jimmy may come up with something that you didn't think about.
Right. Yeah.
You may have started this journey in a place to where, you know what I'm saying, you was on the verge of checking out. And Tiffany comes along and Tiffany says, "Hey, let's go to a park. Let's have a picnic." And then you do that a couple of times. And then James come along and go, "Hey man, want to go grab a burger or some fries or something?" You see how this changes along the way? Because now the picnic is just one of those things. The burgers
Mhm.
are different.
Yeah.
Needs have changed.
Yeah.
Not saying that the picnic wasn't good. You can always go back and have a picnic.
I
Tiffany
love
still wants to have a
picnics.
picnic. Tiffany
Picnics
still
are
wants to
great.
have the picnic, but Tiffany want to have a burger too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And D may want to have a steak. You never know.
Yeah.
So it's being open. It's being open to the possibility of how things change throughout your journey.
Mhm.
Welcoming people in, but also not taking it personal when they have to go find what they need,
Mhm.
right? This is where the challenge always lies with people. And I find it fascinating and I chuckle a lot when this happens. They go, "Man, I can't believe the person just left me." Oh, they throw a temper tantrum. I'm like, yeah, yeah, you have every right to throw that temper tantrum and everything. "I can't believe they just left me like this." I know.
Yeah.
But guess what? We here now. We here now. Let's go see what's over here, right? You may find that your needs have changed, but see, the problem is that we take this thing so personal because we always feel as if the world is picking on us.
Mhm.
We always feel as if it's unfair, right? And so that changes the whole dynamic of your mindset and how we show up.
Yeah.
So, what I do a lot of times with the men, I go self reflect, self reflect before. you get mad at this person, take accountability for the people that feels just like this individual or feel the way that you do, because you've done that before to someone else. You just got mad because someone else did it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes down to navigating this world, I have a simple philosophy. Very, very simple. Life is not fair or unfair. It's not a liar. It's very truthful. It is we as people that put those expectations and then get upset when they are not met.
Mm-hmm.
Life is very simple. Very, very simple. The people who are involved in it, like the D's and the J's and all of these individuals, they all have a role to play in your day to day, right?
Right.
Depending on what you're willing to extract from it.
Right.
If you're willing to live moment by moment, extract information, gain wisdom, you can grow into the individual that you're supposed to be. So when we talk about relationships and things like that, that's the way I break it down, all the way down the rabbit hole. Let's go all the way down there, right? I want to know why. Look, and the reason, look, when I say this, I'm only speaking about myself. I've been through so many failed relationships because I was the toxic one and I never knew what a healthy relationship looked like.
Mm.
I didn't know that there was people out there that was capable of caring about me because I was so used to surviving in a world where people were capable of doing really bad things to you, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's really hard to see the other side. And I think this is where you're valuable and and others like yourself. And that's what makes this amazing because you pick up the pieces where I don't understand. But I'm willing to
Or
learn.
or you're
Right,
seeing things that they don't see. Like you
right,
see the potential.
right.
You
Ah,
see it, and it's like put that potential in front of them.
well,
And
not
then
put it in front of them. I help them walk into it.
to it.
See, and it could be me walking to that individual to the next D. I'm like, give a little sort of things like that. I'm like, I am met Mike. And then
No.
hopefully you pick up on like instead of looking at me like, dude, you got Tourette's? I don't know.
No, no, no. Well, because it's like it's like okay, so so when I say playground, right? Like, and you look at like play as being a part of it, um, I see it as like life is the playground. Like you are actually in the playground, right? But then also play is an acronym for the potential in learning about yourself.
Love that.
And so then it's as you're actually going about and experiencing life, you're actually seeing the potential. And then sometimes based on scenarios or situations and whatnot, um, that's what I was getting at. It's like people kind of know what it is that they would like to experience instead. Might we have to start with the complaint first? Yes, because it's telling you what they feel is going on that's wrong to them. And then from there, okay, well, what do you want to experience instead? And then and you're going about in your position. And it's like, and then what can we put in place? So it's like in acupuncture, that's what happens. It's like, where do we put the needle to allow the energy to flow?
Yes, yes.
And so it's like, so where can we create the environment for that energy to flow, for it to come into form of what you're actually desiring? I don't know about you if you've experienced this, but like too, what I've seen is like yes, the needs change, but it's actually that they don't have the clarity of what it is. And so like they know that there needs to be that there is a change that's needed, but they actually don't have the clarity around what it is.
And
And
that's the beautiful part.
yeah, and so it's like you can dance in that mystery and
I
then
love
try.
that.
And
Love that.
so it's like you can do that, and then like another is that's where I go and I'll look and see if they're talking about some physical signals, then that even guides
Hmm.
because it's like that guides, it gives the nuances. It's telling you, oh, this, if this is showing up in this way, it's telling you that there might be a little bit more structure
Right, right.
that you're desiring at this time. Or this is saying that you might need a little bit more creativity, creative outlets at this time.
Hmm.
This, because it's showing up over here, it might, it's telling you that you might want to sit down and start sifting through what is it that you want to keep and what is it that you don't want to
Yes,
keep,
yes.
and so and those types of signals show up in the body, and so then that, to me, is how you can create clarity when there is confusion, um and taking yourself out of the mind, which can tell you anything that it wants to tell you to corroborate what you want to believe, what you believe, right? But if the body, if the signals are there in the body, that's telling you something that is
Hmm.
bypassing the mind. And I'm not saying that, so,
Yeah,
and I do want to say this with the caveat, it's not hierarchical. I'm actually asking you to
there you
embrace
go.
all of it.
There you
The
go.
mind is saying
I was going to
this,
say, you
the
must be
body's
reading my
saying
mind
this.
because I was about to look. I was about to open up the doors, like, and I didn't mean to cut you off, and I'll let you finish that here in a second. I have this thought,
Mhm.
like as you were talking about it, I was going, this is basic survival when you do not pay attention to what your body needs or what your body is telling you, but you've gotten into a place to where you have to constantly be either in flight or flight mode during these courses of time because of the unfamiliarity or the sense of safety, right? You know what I'm saying? Because over a period of time, and again, when I speak about this, I only speak about from my own experiences, and it does not dictate what everyone else may experience. But if they are, it's a sense of a safety net that you put up upon yourself, and the boundaries of how far you're willing to go.
Mhm.
That a lot of times, and again, I'm not taking away anything from what you said. I'm just adding to what you're saying to add to that tool bucket out there for anyone who may be paying attention and listening and taking notes and things like that. Like whatever you're doing is not right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's having the multitude. It's like having a tool belt.
Tupac.
What you may think is too many tools, right? Just because you're not using them at the same time.
Right.
But if it at one time you need a nail gun, you know what I'm saying? You got a sawzall. Well,
Yep.
one don't fit like the other, right? So eventually you got to put down the sawzall and grab your nail gun. You have to be able to put down something in order to pick up something. And this is the analogy that I go with. Whenever I'm working with men, because we are talking about men who go out into the world and patch up roofs and do water heaters and HVAC systems and work on cars. And so they're looking at the world in a way of, I'm only valued for what I can do, what I
Oh,
can
yeah.
provide. So I'm not speaking from, because I do not know how to speak from the feminine aspect of it. And that's the reason why I'm glad that you're here, because you can, right? I can only speak from the masculine aspect of it and go, what you see is not always what's going on. Perception versus reality. What you
Mhm.
call toxic, I call survival.
Mhm.
Very seldom, very, very seldom do we come across genuinely toxic individuals.
Yeah,
Most people that have been traumatized and beat by the world are still just surviving.
I agree with that.
you know. And so
Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you were saying where those men are typically coming from, and their backgrounds, and that people typically would see them for what they do, and it's very similar for women. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? It's very
Yeah.
similar. I mean, um it is that, like, if it's that stereotypical, okay, it's the children, it's the home. It's they just know me for that. Like, how many times I would sit there and see the mom saying, like, "Oh, my kid just thinks that I'm a cow because they're breastfeeding." And so then it's like, in some ways, it's there, you're going through and you're thinking of, this is what these people are getting from me. And
Right. Right.
that's all of how they see me, right? And that's it. And and so it can be difficult to navigate it, but in the sense that, like, you're more than what it is that you can do.
Mhm.
I'm like, you're you. Like, you are Tony, period. It's only when we
Okay.
start to,
Okay.
start to apply all these other aspects, right? That is where it then, and this is why I struggle with the whole know your worth phrasing.
Mm.
I really struggle with that. And especially when it started popularizing, I really, really struggled with it. And then, I
May
don't
I
know if
ask why?
yeah, like I think it kind of came up in meditation. Um, and I really feel like it might be an ancestral thing. And it's because I feel like almost every culture has experienced enslavement. And that
Yes.
meant that there was a transaction based on what you could do or what someone thought you could do. And then,
Okay. Okay.
and yet you were not necessarily financially compensated for that. Some might argue indentured servitude, right? Well, that was some type of pay. Some would argue, well, housing, but with conditions, you know? So then
Okay.
when I hear people saying, like, know your worth, you actually are kind of perpetuating what we're talking about. You're more than what you can do.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, I'm
Can I
curious.
add to that? Because I totally get where you're coming from. And again, there's no right or wrong answers when it comes down to this. I'm just adding to it to better understand, but maybe opening up the doors for a different way of looking at it, right?
Hmm.
So, that can also be taken as, what, I know my self-worth. When a person, and the reason why I say this, when a person has gone through some of the stuff that we've gone through in life, been beat the hell up,
Yeah.
and have found value in themselves, then they become the individual that they're meant to be in a communal situation. Meaning they don't need someone to validate their I love yous. They don't
Hmm.
need someone to validate uh, um, their value in someone else's life. They value what they have in that space that they've created for themselves. But
Hmm.
they're welcoming to everyone else to come in to fill in that cup and then return. So
Hmm.
it becomes a place of servitude, right? And a deeper embedded understanding when it comes down to that. So when we speak about self-worth, it's more of, I value myself to love me before you do,
Hmm.
right? I value myself to have peace and peace within myself without depending on someone else to give that to me, right?
Hmm.
I value myself enough to get up in the morning and brush my teeth and have breakfast and go out into the world in a positive mindset and say, I'd rather see the world heal than to see them hurt. But if I
Hmm.
must see them hurt, allow me to walk with them until they can find a place of healing. So it's the multi again when I
Yeah,
speak about
multifaceted.
it, I'm looking at the spider web of possibilities that
Yeah.
can be included, right? Not nothing can, not taken away from anything, but including those different things and maybe just looking at things from a different perspective. So,
Hmm.
I have one of my favorite terms that I love to use on myself on a day-to-day basis. They're not words of affirmation or anything like that, but I get up and there was a quote that was said by Jordan Peterson, and and it goes like, I get up every day and treat myself as if I'm somebody who's worth loving. And so I take that personally
Hmm.
because I am worth loving, right?
Hmm.
But I'm worth loving me first because
Hmm.
I'm important. I am valuable. I am worthy. of my own love, because if I project that out into the world, guess what? I receive that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm putting something out into the world that's different. And
Mm-hmm.
people are attracted to different. It's the vibrational frequency that when we go out into the world, this is how we present ourselves. I show up for me before you do.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is extra. But I show up for me before you do because, for one, I don't know what you're going through. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're
Yeah.
going through. So it would be wrong if I put the weight of myself on you.
Mm-hmm.
I will carry that weight until I can put it in the handbag, right? It's not going
Mm-hmm.
anywhere. I'm just shrinking it up. I'm taking all the power away from it, and I'm going, that's small. Let me put that inside of there,
Yeah.
you know. And then I can go back after I've shrunk it down, and I can break that open and go, that's what you were hiding.
Yeah.
Take that out, put it up here. Now I've learned something different. I add to the wisdom and the knowledge that I have to help aid me as I go along,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so now again, when I speak upon this, it's just I'm looking at the multitude of spider webs that are attached to it.
Yeah.
And
Well, and that's exactly it. Like
right.
which is why I said like it's something that I've been exploring.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all I can say is I have a visceral cringe to it. And so it's
Oh
like
yeah.
it becomes like, why am I cringing about this? And then that's when I started thinking about it more and more. And like, and I'm listening to you, and I'm hearing everything that you're saying, by the way,
No, no, but I'm
and
not saying
it's
change your
layered,
mind.
and it's layered in there
Right,
because
right.
it's
I'm not
helping me
saying to change
process
your mind.
things.
I'm not saying that you're wrong or anything.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
saying we
and
go add to this, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
I'm
because
taking
I'm
what
not.
you're saying and I'm
Uh,
learning because
yeah.
what you're doing is you helping me see life from a different perspective and how I can pivot with other individuals and having that more in-depth understanding of
Mhm.
how I pivot. Because as a human being, we're fascinated and complicated.
Oh yeah, we totally are. And
Yeah.
like and I didn't take it that way either. And I'm not trying to push
Okay,
or
good.
persuade
I
you
didn't mean it
as
that
well.
way.
Yeah. So because I know that this is just like open dialogue and you wanted us to go deep. So we are. Here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. But it's just kind of like so I was listening to you and I'm just like, okay, so I'm going, okay. It really is more than okay, so I think about it and I'm like, it just seems there's this transaction. And so
Yeah.
then I'm like, and even then it's I'm doing I'm going to say it this way and then there's another way that I hear it happening. It's like I'm doing all of this, I believe this in myself and I'm doing XYZ for myself. And then what happens is there's a so that gets
Mm,
added and then whatever else comes after it. And so then I hear it, and the thing is and I catch myself doing it as well. This is how I'm able to pick up on it easily. And then a lot of women do that. It's like, well, I'm working this hard to so that my child can see that they can go to college and be a mother too at the same time.
mm,
So there's a lot of that happens. It's like once we add this so that we're justifying a behavior. And but what I'm asking is what if it's simply I'm working?
can we
You
add
we don't
something in there as well?
yeah, like yeah. Well, hold on. Let me ask you
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
I'm gonna
go,
ask
please, please,
real
please,
or
please.
because that's where I started thinking about like the worth thing and then the value thing and then like when people say like they're valued and I am valued and all of that and then like for some reason it just sticks in my head and I'm like that's all that I see is someone else including yourself is actually creating a hierarchy on that
Mm-hmm,
and and
mm-hmm.
so it's like that I think that's why it cringes because it's like even what you like this right now is my phone right as it's old, by the way, y'all. It still got the button, but like, but I'm just saying,
I'm
like,
down. I ain't trying to
okay,
hear it. Okay,
what?
I got
But
an Android over here.
yeah,
Tear it all. Yeah.
but so I'm saying that Apple is gonna tell me we'll give you $15. That's what we think the value is,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then to
Mm-hmm.
someone else who may not even have this would be like, oh my gosh, I would value, like, I would, that to me, I value that at like 250, 350, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's almost
Okay.
like this, like, number, like this, like, it's so personal and so subjective, which I think is
Mm.
also why, like, and even internally, based on how you feel about yourself, that value is going to change. And so
Yes.
that is, I think that's why then I'm like, can we just, how can we like neutralize that?
Well.
Are there ways to neutralize it? Is it possible to dance in the just being?
Mm,
If it's, and that's it. Like,
I don't know about that
we
one.
don't have to do this, so that, and
No,
then
no.
because, and so it's like, is it, is it always this transactional? And now here's the other thing. I understand too that we are individuals in a collective.
Mm.
So I also understand that I am here just like everyone else is here to serve a purpose that's supposed to go out into the collective.
Yes.
And so in a
Yes.
way there is actually, there is a dancing of just by, but here's the subtle nuance is just my, by my being, just by my
Okay.
being
Okay.
is in the
Okay.
collective.
I like that. I like that, and I want to add to that because you're absolutely correct. And when I say this, like the the other side of it is asking yourself, what if?
Yeah.
The what ifs, right? You know what I'm saying? You have the woulda, coulda, shoulda, woulda, and it's so a simple of a concept that we sometimes look past it because we begin to take these things that happen to us or as personal instead of
Mm,
looking at it going, what if it's happening for me? What if? What if, what I'm saying? What if this person leaving has nothing to do with me? You take away the personable aspect of it and you open it up to be subjective. Everything is subjective. The blueprint to life is constantly moving. Things are taken away, things are added in. This is the evolvement of the human mind or the individual. Now I totally agree. As we're individuals in a collective, when do we step outside of the collective and remain the individual? See, and this is what I may struggle with because I'm not a leader, but nor am I a follower. I can lead if I want to, but I just choose not to,
mm,
right? Because for one, I'd rather be with the old and the sick and the weak. I'd rather be back there with them.
mhm.
I choose not to follow a person along a path that I know that can take me down a path that's going to toss me off the cliff. Choose. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not going there, but I don't want people to follow me because my path I never know is where I'm going to end up at.
Mhm.
So maybe, maybe what if the individual that's part of this collective, what if you're just passing through that collective? Maybe your job is not to be a permanent what if, but temporary what if to take those that are looking for their own paths to walk them to their next destination while you're heading to your destination. Maybe it's not personal. Maybe it's only personal to you. Maybe that collective, you're there for a reason to reach the people that those in the front can't reach. What if? What if, the things that you're meant to do is so much bigger than what you see? And you're just in the right place at the right time.
Mhm.
And it may just seem like you're not there at the right time. because you're in the mess. So again, I'm not. It's one of those things. When we're talking, I'm like, what if these things, all of it's correct, all of it's correct, right? And
Mhm.
there's a multitude of dimensions that you can go through, multitude of avenues that you can just add to the thought pattern when we're walking with these individuals in their messy parts of their life, right? Because you have skills that I don't have. And if I see that, I can go, hey, D, they need you more than they need me, right? So that
Yeah.
you let me know when I can step in, right? And I'm okay with sitting back and going, man,
Tag, you're it.
yeah, I'm about to sit back and be like, girl, this about to be good. I'm gonna sit back and just watch everything until it's my time to step up. But other than that, I'm just gonna be walking behind, going, she over there bragging. But and that's why I love having these conversations because it does add an element of the layers that people often experience. So when we talk about the whole human being, right, we have to dissect it to the very last microgram of that individual, right, and see the individuals that they can be, and those cells that are trying to come together for themselves, right? And
Yeah.
what roles do we play? But most importantly, are we open to receive that back from the individuals that come into our lives,
Mhm.
right? And to be able to go, oh, hmm, I didn't see you sneak up. Let's see what if this individual was here to teach me a lesson. I think it is. I think it's true. Let me sit down with this individual and let me learn something. Because look, I'm forever going to be a student of this thing. I don't claim to know nothing at all. I don't claim to know nothing at all because I don't. I really don't. I'm just going through it as a child in the world, just going. I like lollipops. I like chocolate chip cookies, right?
Cookie.
You know what I'm saying?
You like some gumdrops? Like
I like all of that. I like the big old gobstoppers where I'm just like, I wonder if I can take a chunk out of this thing, knowing that it's not going to happen, but I'm willing to try, right?
yeah.
And maybe I have to get a hammer and think outside the box and put it, instead of putting it on the table and whacking it, maybe I should put it inside of a bag so I can keep all the pieces to it and enjoy the little bits and pieces, right? So that's a simple
Yeah.
analogy from what we're talking about. At least I think so. Anyway, and I could be wrong, right? Hey,
Yeah.
everything's up to to perception. And so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up because I like having
Yay.
too much fun talking with you, and I got away with saying you're not karate chopping me anymore threatened at the beginning. So that's just my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm telling everybody you was out there kung fu fighting. You pulled out the eagle style, and I was like, I don't even know what to do. I got cat, you know. Uh, but you was like, I'll eat the cat. I was like, I know, I don't want to, I don't want to do that anymore, right? So here we are now. Here we are now. I made it through. She didn't kick me in the chin or nothing like that. We had a blast. And so,
Yeah.
with that being said, do you have any last thoughts on anything?
I just really would love for people like my vision, great big vision is that people can see that you can actually be who you are and you can have those desires to come into form for you, and that it's totally possible. And if you need the environments for all of like for that seed that you just planted to be able to germinate and grow and end up blossoming, and it's going to end up pollinating like and then rippling out to the collective, I mean, you got some people here. um
Got some people there.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you got to have people to help you. You plant the seeds, but you got to know when to harvest it too.
Hmm.
You got to know how to reap the things that you have sowed. You planted these seeds of greatness. When are you going to sow the greatness out of it? Right? You're always going to have leftover seeds to grow to plant and sow more greatness. But
Yeah.
when are you going to live within the harvest that you've already planted. A lot of people don't know, what I'm saying, don't know how to harvest this. So what happens? The greatness goes back to seed. So you got to know when you're in the season of harvesting.
Yeah. And you got fertilizer.
Yeah,
That's us.
fertilizer. So you got
That's
those
us.
things,
We'll
right?
fertilize it. And
Exactly,
it's
exactly.
non-GMO. Like
Well,
it's
you better stop. You better stop. We're working it out right now. We're working out the GMO, that MSG, and all that good stuff and stuff like that, right? And so now, as we begin to close this up, how can people find you, D?
Oh man, yeah. If you would want to come and play at the playground, really just go to theperfectplayground.com. Sign up for the email community. I am really actively working on adding some pieces and elements. So it's email, but then also like how can we meet each other like online, and then really create that space for you to come and just jam and see that you can really experience rich relationships. And if you're curious about how to do that or what that is, and we get to use the signals that are coming from the whole body for that to be possible for you. So yeah, theperfectplayground.com. And I'm more active on Threads right now at
I
Denicia
am too.
Hilton.
Don't feel bad. I didn't know I was, but apparently I am.
Oh yeah, so the book
Yeah, I was like,
Thread.
oh, okay, this is what we're doing,
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving it over there.
It's a blast. It's definitely a blast, right?
Yeah,
Um,
love it. So yeah, if you want to just come hang out with me, that'd be great.
I got you, and everybody's been tuning in. I see you guys over here on Instagram blowing up and everything. Thank you guys for tuning in, even on Facebook, LinkedIn. I see you guys over there. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Rumble. I see you guys over there. Thank you guys for tuning in and just partaking in the conversation that we're having. And her information is down below. So if you want to connect with her, please go there, connect with her, and tell her that you've seen her on the podcast as well. So now, before I let you go, Big D, I got a question. Oh yeah, I call you Big D because you know what I'm saying. Like you didn't bully me too much. I give respect where respect is due. You know what I'm saying? OG. Yeah, OG. Are you all over there carrying on? Yeah. What you think I didn't know? I saw you throwing up game time. No, I'm just playing. No, it's been a blast. So one last question before I let you go.
Mhm.
If you had a superpower, what would it be? Right? Right? Yeah.
I have a whole bunch of ones coming in my head, because I've had this conversation with my husband before. It's like, but for some reason, it's like it feels like it needs to be something else. Superpower, I would say. No, because if I say that removes sovereignty from other people. Oh, this is so challenging.
Makes you
Oh,
think, doesn't it?
it does. Oh man. So for some reason, I feel like there is somebody who has this superpower, but I'm not sure who. Um, I kind of want to like be able to grow things, like kind of be like, oh, we need some kale, and then I could just be like, kale, and then like, oh, but these people need like they need tomatoes, and then kind of be like tomatoes just grow, and then or these people need these herbs, and then like can kind of like, which I know people be like, girl, that's gardening, and it's like,
That's what I was thinking, but I mean, I don't know. You want a green thumb? I mean, that's all you have
I
to
know,
say,
like, girl, that's
But I
gardening.
get it. Go ahead, keep doing your thing. Keep doing
The
your thing.
difference is that I don't have to go through all them steps. I could just like say it, and then it grows, and it'd be full of all the nutrients and everything already. And so it's like I can go into like the more urban areas, and then just be like, oh, you're on a
I seen this
patio.
on a movie one time. It was called Harry Potter. I don't know. I don't know. Bippity boppity boop. Okay, so
So I guess it's more of the speed than of because I do have that moment of like fighting between divine timing and then I'm like I just want this now, like, so if it's something like, I think that's the big difference is
Uh-huh.
I
And
want to plant the
you're
seeds, but I'm
absolutely
like I
right.
want to see it happen now, like,
Yeah, there's a guy who had that power. His name was Doctor Strange. Yeah,
oh, and I
yeah.
love me
But
some Doctor
boom, there
Strange,
it
by the
is.
way. Yes,
Uh,
I would sit there. I love
See,
Doctor
there you
Strange.
go. See,
I was just
I
he's
knew
my
it.
jam. Like
Yeah.
I'd be all up in different timelines and dimensions. Like my
Exactly. So
husband's like, I don't know how you. I'm like, you don't see it. Like Doctor Strange is amazing, and I'm like, and
he
I could
really
sit there
is.
and
And when
he's
you was
like
talking
missing
about
all
it, I
this.
was like, is she really just describing Doctor Strange to me over here, thinking I don't know what she's talking about? I know what you're talking about. I like comic books too, and I also have seen the movie. What? You know what I'm saying? And if you've seen Cinderella, then you know where the biggity bobbity
Jumpity
boo comes
boo.
from.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what
Oh,
I'm
I saw the
saying?
whole carriage and everything. Everything was changing. Like those, those mice they were all of a sudden like the ones that were going and escorting her there, and all this. So it's yeah.
There you go. There you go.
I think about Pocahontas and
Oh
the
no,
colors of the
don't you dare
wind and
start.
everything. So like
Don't you dare start. Can you paint with the sounds of the wind?
that is
You know what I'm
like
saying? You don't understand. I will be slick when I say that to a kid. Can you paint with the sounds of the wind? No. Then you don't know me. You don't know my life
okay.
story. You don't even know my journey like that.
Okay.
There you go. You know what I'm saying? Or you could be like that one, you let it go. Frozen. Yeah, let it
Let
go.
it let it go.
There you
You know
go.
what? Because that was so popular. When things get super popular, I question it and I'll be like, I'm not gonna do it. It's my form of resistance. But anyways, I
Uh-huh.
eventually ended up watching it, and it had, I mean, years later, I finally ended up watching it, and then I remember like texting my sister, going, "Man, no wonder everybody was all up in this movie. This is a great movie." And so
Uh-huh. Yeah,
I
and
was like,
you know what? One I resisted for a long time. The dinosaur movie with Littlefoot, Land of the Lost.
"Oh, Land of the Lost." There's so
Yeah,
many ones out
everybody's like,
there.
"Oh my god, you gotta go watch it." I was like, "No, I don't." And then when I watched it, I was like, "I don't know why y'all did this to me." I had a bunch of little kids with me and everything, and I was just like, I was looking at the kids, all the kids that growing up on Tony, and so I'm over here like, it's all good, yo. We're gonna get through this. And the kids like, oh
I
my
know.
god, Tony. I was like, no.
It's yeah, that
They
one's
took
like
away my they took away my whole manhood. I was like, I don't need this problem. I need to go punch something just to reclaim myself.
oh gosh.
So, I was like, we're not doing this no more. Yeah. They totally destroyed me, girl. They totally destroyed me. So so I definitely understand all of that now.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, girl, I love speaking with you. We got to do this again. And,
Yeah.
for everyone else out there, hopefully, you guys, you laughed and learned something and, open up your minds to the possibilities of so many other things that can be added in when you're going along this journey of self discovery and healing and, connection. So,
Yes.
and with that being said, guys, um, as always, I appreciate your support. And if this is your first time tuning in, if you haven't already, do me a favor, head on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And just a brief update, we are going to be putting out material for you guys to see who the presenters are for the Global Grief Conference 2025. We're kicking it off April 25th, 7 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. And we have a multitude of things coming. If you have not already, I'm going to be sending out the Even Bright event. Get your tickets or just subscribe to the channel. You can even go to Rumble as well, right? We're going to be doing it over there. We're going to be on all the social media platforms. And with that being said, guys, we're going to see you guys in the next episode. Thank you guys for rocking with us as always. I love you. And yeah, have an amazing day. Denise, again, thank you. Mwah. I love you.
Bye.
And we're going to, you guys, go check her out, please.
See y'all.
See you guys in the next one. Peace. As soon as I can find. Oh, there we are.